Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, all the panelists, for being here and spending the time today. We know that the India retail is going through a dynamic change, right? We know that there are a lot of changes that we are seeing on how the customers are looking at their shopping, the real estate scenario where high street and malls are concerned, they are changing. The developers are adapting to, uh, the size of and the requirement of many of the retailers. In some places, they are looking at reducing their footprint, and many of the brands, like we see the athleisure brands, have now started expanding and taking much larger stores. So it's one thing. It's a not a cookie cutter model. We know that retail is changing. And to ask a question on this, Sumit, how do you look at when you're looking at expansions, when you're looking at retail stores? Let's start with the major cities first. What are the criteria that you look for? I'm sure you have quite a few stores in all the major high streets in most of the major cities. Uh, how are you still looking at stores? How do you identify different markets where you can go and penetrate?
So, 90% of our stores in our malls. So, while we are present in strategic high streets, we are primarily in the malls because we firmly believe that getting traffic into the mall stores is much easier than driving traffic to a high street unless and until you are a large format store. A typical 2,500 square foot store in a mall makes more sense rather than being in the high street. Having said that, we're still in malls, in high streets, in the key high streets. Um, so when we look at stores, we obviously look at the potential of the market, either in terms of what the competition is doing. If it's a new market, if it's an existing market, we typically look at what we are doing already in that market and then decide whether what kind of size we should do, what kind of brands which we do, because we have the opportunity of doing 5 brands instead of not only one brand. So the model remains the same. The sizes vary from market to market. I can go up as high as 5,000 square foot, 8,000 square foot. I can go as low as 1,500 square foot as well. So from a size perspective, obviously there is a advantage that we have. Uh, in terms of investments, I don't think we differentiate between a metro or a tier 2 or a tier 3 city, uh, because our stores have to are the reflection of what the brand has to offer. And we believe that a consumer in a tier 3, tier 4 market is as desiring of the experience that we offer in our stores as a consumer in a metro city is. So there's no differentiation in terms of investments or the kind of investments we do. A store in Bombay or a Rajkot will look very similar, and that's how we go about. Even though our entry points become a little bit challenging because our investments in a store are very very high, and we don't compromise on the size uh, below a certain point. Even then, it becomes a little expensive. But yes, that's a cost of business, which we obviously have ready to take it. I hope
Thank-
I've answered your question.
Sure. Thanks, Sumit. If I can move to Vivek. Vivek, same question. How do you choose your real estate in cities, in metros? And what is the comfort base for being human, mall versus high street?
So Anand, we are very balanced across malls and high streets, and this is partly design, part reality. Uh, the way we approach any location, for that matter, whether it's a large town or a small town or high street or a mall, there are few things that one needs to consider. The first thing is what is potential opportunity there and what is the longevity of that potential? Because I'm investing into a location and I would want to go and retail there for at least 8-9 years before look at an alternate location to that market. So the first thing is what is the potential and longevity of it. Second is what is the brand fit for me, which is very, very important because, like we were discussing a little earlier, will I open a Lajpat Nagar or will I open a Karol Bagh? I'll probably open a Lajpat Nagar. Karol Bagh is not necessarily my priority number one. It could be a very high trading density market, but it is not necessarily a market which is meant for a brand like us. It is meant more for brands which are more ethnic, wedding, shopping. The third thing that we try and see is what is my current data telling me of my realized potential in that geography. So while we are expanding stores, we are already present in shop-in-shops, we are already present in multi-brand stores, we are already present in serving consumers across pin codes through our brand.com and the e-commerce portals. So there's a certain level of intelligence available about each market on what kind of a potential I'm able to realize. So there could be a market which could be very, very high potential, but somehow it's not a market where uh, it's a place of strength for me as a brand today, right? So then basis these, you decide whether I'm going to open the store. If yes, then today or at a point in time in future. These are 2-3 things. When it comes to the kind of investments, like Sumit said, retail identity is possibly one of the most crucial levers for all of us as brands and retailers to be able to get the consumer to experience the brand in true sense. As far as the major towns are concerned, there's absolutely no difference in investment in terms of capex, etc. However, when there are markets which we know that are not necessarily the markets that will give you ROI on very, very high capex, we have built a model. We have value engineered the store in a way where you don't lose out on look and feel. There are some material changes that one is done to be able to make it commercially viable. Because at the end of the day, it is great to have a store, but if the payback is too long, whether it is your money or the franchisee's money, it's not going to make sense. So these are the few parameters that we look at. We look at what the competitive activity is. If there are markets where I know that Sumit's got a store which is performing exceedingly well, there is a Levi's that's doing well, and so on and so forth, and we have a brand set that we track. It's really another reassuring factor that what kind of revenue you can generate from that space. So these are the few things that we consider.
Sure, Vivek. Thanks. That brings me to Deepika. If you can, something that Vivek just said, how closely do you monitor, competition or your like-minded brands when you look at real estate? Do you look at stores where other jewelry brands are around you? How do you identify stores? For mall, it still becomes easy probably because there is already a zoning in place. But how do you differentiate that in, let's say, in a high street location?
Hi. So we strongly believe that retail is all about real estate. So it's important to get the real estate right, whether it's a real estate cost, real estate location, or maybe the real estate adjacency. So we definitely look at the brands with similar customer profile around. It could be jewelry brands for sure. Of course, you want to sit in the cluster where customers are coming to with the purpose of buying jewelry. But we also look at brands which have like-minded customer profile. So that is how we go about it while plotting the store. However, which location we want to go after, that is something our customers tell us. So basically, Caratlane started as an online retailer, and still there's a lot of online browsing that happens. Literally, a customer comes to the store with the Caratlane app open and says that this is the product that I want, and it's present in your store. So it's that detailed. So with those analysis, we come to know where our user base is sitting, where our deliveries are happening, and basis that we go ahead and open stores in those pin codes.
Perfect. Thanks, Deepika.
Thanks.
Amar, moving to you, you've got 12 stores. You also typically online brand as now, have started looking at offline stores. Uh, so, what has been the strategy when we've been dominating, or you've been in the online, platform for so many years, and now you've gone and started these physical stores? What's the thought process, and how did you gauge how the customers would react to this?
So, okay, we at Neeman's are actually just started our journey. So, just been 5 years where we have 5 years of data points of looking at how the consumer is behaving, what kind of pin codes are we serving, and what cities are we doing really well. Similarly, what we need to look at is that once we're getting into retail, how is the consumer reacting to it? Is it that the white space is there or not? So last year we started this journey. We opened up 12 stores in the last year. So we first initially picked up the safer options of going to malls in the areas where we already having high consumer base. Like we picked up Bangalore, Hyderabad, Mumbai. All these places had high feasibility reports saying that these customers would buy from us here. So we again decided to go in bits and pieces wherein what kind of store would be an ideal option, whether it be a 400 square feet or 800 square feet, 1200 square feet, because we're still testing out things. So first thing is more about getting into pop-up stores, experiential marketing, trying to understand and gauge the experience of the consumer. So last 12 months has been a journey where we have got a lot of credibility as a offline brand as well. So what now we are doing is we're also expanding in fast in other cities where the pin code and catchment is very high. That means the other metropolitan cities, the tier 2 cities, the tier 3 cities. So you look at data points very, very deeply because we have been serving good 1.5 lakh to 2 lakh customers a month online. So how can we transition the same thing? Offline is something very, very important. So the data points give us every reason to look at that areas. Okay, I'm serving around 1,000 customers in a week here. Let's go to these areas and let's look out at malls or high streets where the footwear zoning is already done. That way, it serves the purpose for us.
Thanks, Amar. Colonel, moving to you, as there is a lot of demand on online, and now, we all know that physical retail stores are here to stay, right? How do you, as Victorinox, how are you looking at your expansions, and how are you identifying your locations and stores, in this journey? How are you doing that?
Thanks. That's an interesting question. See, we strongly believe that in India, offline retail is not going anywhere. Of course, online is seeing an impressive growth, and none of the leaders sitting here with me, all an esteemed panel, can afford to not just ignore, to invest more and more in digital commerce. That's inevitable in our life today. But honestly, I feel that offline retail in India is not going anywhere because of three reasons. Number one, weather. We are not Zurich, where Bahnhofstrasse has a beautiful walk and we sip a glass of glue wine in winters, or we sip again some mild beer in summers, walk on the street and shop. We are in weathers we all know. Outside the convention center, the weather is waiting for us. So we prefer the 400,000 square feet jail called a mall. That is a jail that the entire family likes to hang around and spend the hard-earned money that we have. So we love this jail is not going anywhere. And this jail has everything under the sun. It's shopping, food, etc. We know the description. We are all retail experts here. Point number two, traffic. We may have matured to be a country who is ready to spend 50 lakhs and above for a car, but we are not matured as a country which has the roads for a 50 lakh rupee car. Okay, so the irony is, on the signal I see a 4x4 Mercedes GLS standing, okay, which is crawling at a 33 kilometers per hour top speed on the Western Express Highway. So traffic, we love to drive our 50, 60, 70 lakh rupee cars to a mall parking. This is India for us. Let's call spade a spade. And point number three is infrastructure. We will not have
That's
our...
off-roading, actually. That's
Well said.
off-roading.
Well said. Yeah, well said. That is off-roading at 33 in the city. The infrastructure, of our weekend getaways are not equipped for us to spend time. And hence we end up in that 400,000 square feet jail called a mall. So offline retail is not going anywhere, and Victorinox is very clear. It's going to be offline, offline, and offline. Of course, with the cherry on the cake, which is online, and we will all enjoy the sorry. You know, you continue making a lot of money and keep inspiring us online. Come on, man. People like you will get the double-digit growths and give us the inspiration. But we see that for a premium brand like ours, we will be in the less than 20% segment of online business as a share. We will dominate offline. How do we choose our stores? The next one, again, interesting question. We are a premium brand. Uh, we on watches, we are above Tissot, below Rado. On travel gear, we are above Samsonite, below Tumi, below Remova. On kitchen knives, globally, we are not the Rolex, but in India, we are the premium brand because it's a category not matured. On pocket knives, there is only one player in the world. So that's the Victorinox positioning. There is no other positioning. So we are a premium brand, and the three channels of sale that we pick up are the malls, the airports. So travel retail is an increasing zone for us with the travel gear and accessories. And number three is high street, but I agree with my colleagues that high street is a low percentage for us. Mainly we focus on malls. And for us, there are three criteria that are important as a homework, which our knowledge partners as a research help us before we plan a city expansion, which is the income spread segment of a particular area that is important for us surrounding a mall. So we target that income bracket segment, and our indicators are like the rental per square feet or the purchase price of real estate per square feet. That's the easiest and the lowest hanging fruit to catch our target mall. So that's a key driving factor for us. Plus, the online sales help us with the customer behavior of the city, where we could see it as a low hanging fruit. Like for example, we've launched a special platform for our kitchen knives uh, to keep it in an exclusive brand environment. And out of our online experience of customer shopping behavior, Bangalore is the city, or South is the zone where we will see the first 20 of these small stores. Only kitchen knife stores. Our full concept stores are across the country, evenly spread. But the kitchen knife aggressive will be almost 3:1. So we'll open 3 in South and 1 in West and 1 North. That's how we will go. So you're right. The data on consumer behavior helps.
Sure. Thanks, Colonel. I think there are many developers who are in the audience, and I'm not too sure if they agree with the term jail and the amount of money that they are spending on constructing these malls. But thank you.
It's a beautiful jail.
Now we are talking like Pablo Escobar. So just heading to that, Shailina, as you have an international experience, Westside stores are in 92 Indian cities.
Yeah.
The topic that we are discussing, I think you have covered many of the cities here. How are you all in 92 cities, and what kind of homework does Westside do, right, to go across so many cities and open such large stores of Westside?
Well, I think so. You're right, 90 cities, 28 states. We have about just shy of 250 very large 30,000 square feet Westside stores. And we have about 40 Utsa small stores, which we can talk about later. And I think it's a slightly different model to what I've been listening to. We go big, bold, and confident in areas where we know there's a future catchment. There are housing coming up, there are educational colleges, and there's an infrastructure building that will be our customer from child to grandmother. And therefore, we are lucky in a way that we can actually, because we've been around for 25 years, and not many brands have been around, because India's not as advanced in brand retailing. So the fact that Westside's 25 years means that we can arrive in a place that might not have the infrastructure and all the competitors, but we then attract a lot of people once we land. And when we land, we bring people with us and we build the city. So we're metros, we're tier one. We are now expanding into tier two. And I have to tell you, the tier two cities is where we're seeing phenomenal growth. And there are some big micro markets. Bangalore, Hyderabad, the south has been very good. And the north is now starting to come up. North was lagging after COVID, and we're now seeing. But I'd say that it's a confidence. We have to lead. There's still so much opportunity. It's the fastest growing population in the world. That's why I moved from the UK to India, because I get all these people are going to shop, and we are a young population, age 28 mean. Therefore, for us at Westside, we're appealing to young fashion, absolute value, and we want to capture the whole family. So our strategy is really to be bold and conquer and not read too much. We have data, we have online sales, we know our loyal customers. We have 8 million Weststyle Club members. We have their data. We know where they come from, and we keep looking at them and seeing, instead of them traveling 5 kilometers, let's just put a store in their region. And it's working. So, and I think there's more to do.
Perfect. Thank you. Deepika, moving to you. When you open stores in tier 2, 3 cities, do you typically change your product mix? How do you cater towards the customers of that? Do you do this research, or do you just go by what's on online and the pin codes, that the kind of shopping that they are doing, and based on that you go and decide where to open a store and what kind of products you should be selling, or the products are general and it's just the location that you concentrate on?
We do also look at the browsing pattern of that city. What kind of, so there is a core product which remains same. However, the number of units and etc. category wise within jewelry also we have various categories, right? So there's Mangal Sutra, there's kids collection that we have, and we have bracelets, etc. So that varies basis the browsing pattern of the consumer.
Okay. If I can just move to Vivek. Vivek, is there something similar on how you identify your stores in tier 2 markets?
So, Anand, I'm not a firm believer, and I was speaking to someone earlier, and I'm not a big believer of the terms tier 2, tier 3. Bombay has Palladium and has Dombivli. So, where do you classify that? While we have classified our stores by cohorts, uh, and these cohorts primarily are twofold. One is on the fold of what is the number expected from the store. So one is the revenue goals. Second is merchandise mix by each market. And when I say market, I mean micro markets. I don't mean a city or a town ever. Second thing that we are, and that's a journey that's been on for us, is while I would have a certain starting point, which would be a assumption, which would be a hypothesis that this store is going to perform this way on categories and segments and so on and so forth. What we are on is with being able to track stock and sales on a daily basis, each transaction, letting the system learn. We have a ML-led system that is there in place, and we anticipate that in next 3 seasons, basis the product attributes, geography, transit time, and so on and so forth, we will have the system giving us a base construct on the merchandise mix, because there's so much data, and we talk about a lot of data being available in digital commerce. When I look at the amount of data that's available in pure play retail commerce of your own, it's immense, it's huge, it's inhuman to even expect that one will be able to read, decipher, and make sense out of it. Thankfully, now there are tools. So we believe that at this point in time, while it begins with hypothesis on merchandise mix and the kind of price points and the kind of products that you will keep. So while I would say that this shirt should carry 40 shirts, the store can carry 40 shirts. So what are those 40 shirts? That's also a very, very important decision, because last thing you want to do is ISTs, and and that's something that most of the apparel retailers would know the pain of IST is that while it is real that the store should transfer merchandise to another store, but the store manager would never want to do that. It's a huge battle. So getting the first mix right, and that's something we believe is where tech is playing a role for us. We have started to learn, and it does mean that this entire learning journey has changed the way you replenish your stores. So from a point of time about a year back, I used to replenish one particular product at the most twice or thrice in a season to a store, to the point that I'm today replenishing the same SKU about approximately 11 times in the highest performing stores. Now, all of this data is getting read, recorded, and that input is coming back in. Every IST that gets generated is also getting recorded. All of that input is coming back into me as a future information for geographies and pin codes by merch mix, categories, price points, all of that, that what should be the ideal mix. There is no cookie cutter here.
Sure. Thanks, Vivek. Sumit, if I can ask you the same thing, you've got 5 brands to choose from, right? And how, and every brand caters to a different customer and a different age group, right? How are you expanding these brands across Indian cities? Is because, as Vivek just said, it's not a cookie cutter model, so it cannot be you have the same expansion plan for all the 5 brands, right? How are you doing it, and for which? How do you find your real estate on that?
So, as Vivek said, that he's not a firm believer in the tier 2, tier 3 demography. Uh, uh, I
Just one question there. So does consumer pricing and pattern doesn't matter? Yes, I understand Vivek's example of Bombay, but the spend and the other thing doesn't
So
matter. No,
there
It
will
doesn't.
be
for
some
Westside I
difference.
understand.
There
It
will
doesn't. It doesn't. Really, it doesn't.
there will be a little bit of difference, but at the end of the day, you have to understand that what the brand is offering. There is a consumer or a customer for fashion in a so-called metro versus a tier 2. Maybe the number of consumers will vary, but there is a acceptance or demand for that fashion. So, and you will be amazed to see how these tier 2, tier 3 markets are reacting in terms of higher price points merchandise. I mean, sometimes we get feedback. I mean, obviously, we're not scientists, but yes, we have a lot of data. But sometimes we get a lot of feedback from tier 3, tier 4 customers that I saw this in your Linking Road store, but back in my city, it's not available. So, I mean, we can go wrong sometimes, but at the end of the day, there is demand, there is acceptance of higher price point merchandise as well. How you right size your merchandise is obviously a lot of data comes in play. You have to uh, be very, very agile in reading that data. But as he said, the terabytes of data available, which cannot be humanly deciphered, um, uh, at least by retailers. We probably need scientists to decipher that data, which obviously a day will come when we'll start hiring data scientists to tell us what sells and what doesn't. So yeah, but but at the end of the day, the core of the brand remains as it is. It was in a metro, or it is in a tier 2 or a tier 4 market. But then obviously the price mix, the merchandise mix varies. Some things work in a metro, some silhouettes work in a metro, some fits work in a metro, but don't work in tier 2 markets or in some regions. So that's the kind of differentiation or digging which needs to be done, and learnings which should not, which are taken care of in the next mix of merchandise which is sent to the store.
Thanks, Sumit. So, Amar, going from there, I'm guessing it's equally important to figure out what kind of merchandise, what will sell for the optimum throughput of the products that you are selling in your stores or online. How are you doing that?
So what we're doing is we are ensuring that we are omni-channel present, and we are ensuring that all the categories what we are selling on footwear should be available offline. And the reason is because people who come online, they would definitely want to touch and feel the product, try that, experience that particular product, and buy it. And when they're coming offline, if they don't find that particular product, they will not buy it and they'll go back online or they may not convert. So for us, for in our journey, we believe that it should be omni-channel present. And we should have all the categories because we are just still on the mode of expansion. So it's still on the mode of figuring out that because we, unlike other brands, we don't have thousands of SKUs. We just have 100 odd SKUs and we are building a business out of a very, very lean catalog. So ultimately, it's a business of exploration. So at the moment, what we are looking to sell offline is available online, and it's ensured that all the products which are there online should be offline.
Okay. Thanks, Amar. Shailina, moving to you. Westside caters to ethnic wear, Western wear, everything. And now what we see is has a very popular in-house brand called Utsa. And as you mentioned, you have pulled out Utsa out of Westside and have started doing, regular Utsa stores. So what's the thought process and how are you differentiating where should Utsa be compared to where a Westside should be and, otherwise? And what's
Yeah.
the strategy for that?
So the strategy really was that I guess about 4 years ago, the ethnic market was starting to decline. However, we do have 26 in-house brands, and the highest brand recognition in the marketplace of India was Utsa. If you ask customers what they like about Westside, often, especially women, would say, we love Utsa. And so we took a decision really to spin off a small format Utsa stores. Firstly, finding land and areas to build 30,000 square feet in India is running out. So we wanted to try a small format store with a curated ethnic range where we could give personal service. Our big stores are primarily self-service stores catering to now Western fashion, contemporary, modern, iconic. We have a pull model, so in terms whoever buys it, we replenish in 24 hours. So we're feeding those stores to be beacons of confident shopping experiences. But on the other hand, we believe the ethnic is still to be protected and nurtured, and we do that in a personal service store, Utsa, that is perceived to be more premium. Interestingly, in the smaller format, and you'll appreciate this at Victorinox and Caratlane, in the smaller format, we have higher spends. The customer spends many hours, will pick up outfit build, and loves the experience and the attention. And the big stores are the prisons, if you want to call them, where the whole family comes and spends the day and everybody in the family finds something they love. So I think there's room for both, and we are experimenting with both, and they're both growing and they both have a future.
Thank you. Colonel, coming to you, if we talk about, you said you're present in 22 cities? 22 cities is where Victorinox.
Yes.
So, do you, customize your stores towards, for the customers that they have on the demand? How is Victorinox doing it? We know it's travel, we know it's knives. You said that you're diversifying into just knife stores. But overall, how are you doing that? Your watch pricing is, above Tissot, the way you mentioned it. How are you doing it for Victorinox?
A big change in the consumer buying behavior patterns in India is, which is a welcome change, is that since less than a decade, travel gear has now entered to be a part of me, to be a part of myself, to be a part of my personality. It's not just seen as a piece of functional buying, which was the case earlier for us. It was meant for a purpose which was completely functional, and a little bit of good looks was fine. But today it's heartening to see the customer in India, like every large and established land of the world, travel gear is also becoming a part of me. And hence, here I now will resonate or agree to my colleagues here on the panel mm, that keeping the core of the brand as the same, that is something that can't be compromised, be it a tier 1 or a tier 2. But yes, a 20 to 25% tweak on the styles, maybe on taste or maybe on the pricing. Like for example, uh, our super premium Grommet kitchen knife blocks would be in palladium, but we may not keep them in our Lucknow outlet. But and a little less expensive Swiss Modern Collection is doing very well in Lucknow, which was a surprise for us as well. So tier 2 cities are not those tier 2 cities probably we would want them to be defined as. They have money and they have willingness to spend. Now this has forced us to to change our thinking of doing a lot of changes and filtering in the collections or the assortments. But yes, they're definitely on a realistic basis making the store investment in stock viable for partners or us for us as well. We do tweak the assortment of on the basis of be it watches or travel gear. The limited editions or the most expensive top of the line would be reserved for the tier 1 or maybe the peak store of the tier 2. And that's how we plan an assortment. But yes, the core of the brand uh, is the same. A store will look a Victorinox store in, be it in tier 2 or maybe tier 3 city. That's the plan.
Sure. Thanks, Colonel. Sumit, just to make these stores more optimal, we are talking about, how much, how much money or how much time, or how is the back end taken care of? How's the supply chain taken care of? Because you have expanded to cities all across, right? How does
Are you
that
looking
work?
for a secret sauce for tier 2, tier 3 markets?
Of course, people are here to hear that. I think it'll be interesting to know from you, from Westside, how are you all doing this?
So, I actually, can you repeat the question?
Or the supply chain.
So the supply chain for the, it's difficult because considering the length and breadth of this country, we have to plan much better for the upcountry stores or the hinterland. But at the end of the day, it's similar to how we would cater to a store in a metro or a tier 1. It's just that we might have to plan it a little better so that the fashion hits at the stores at the same time, and there's not a time lag, because at the end of the day, consumer is the consumer, rather than we being omni channel, the consumer is omnipresent today. So he or she knows what fashion is hitting in your stores or is hitting online when, and they don't want to be underserved by getting delayed. So over the years, obviously we've also perfected it over the years. Whether it's an additional warehouse or a logistics center in the north part of the country to serve north and northeast. Uh, uh, but I think the basics remain the same. When you consider when you have to give fashion to the consumer at the same time, you can't uh, let the consumer feel that they are uh, getting fashion 15 days later or 30 days later. So yes, it is tough. In spite of whatever the infrastructure development has happened in this country over the last 10, 15 years, while it's still better today, but there is still a time lag, especially the east part of the country. Or northeast. Where it takes ages to reach in terms of if I have to send merchandise. So, yeah, I think planning the launch ahead for these markets where the timelines are longer. Uh, Maybe add on a warehouse closer to that market is one of the aspects which any brand should consider.
I agree with you. I think just to add to your point, West Side's strategy was one centralized DC, and for a long many years that was considered to be sort of the way business should be run. We now have 6 DCs. We've decentralized, and we've gone north, we've gone south, east, and west. And we are fortunate to be in an ecosystem of Trent, where we also have 400 Zudio stores, which we've opened in the last 2 years. So actually, by decentralizing our warehousing, we are now able to deliver the same merchandise to every store in the country on the same day. But it took a lot of investment and boldness, to your point, to make that call, because there was a lot of nervousness. The North was never getting its merchandise. The Northeast was getting it even later. And so we needed to take a step. So I think people will have to consider decentralizing distribution as they grow.
Sure. Just last question, just a thought, Vivek, if we can start with you. How do you consider outlet malls, right? Is that something that you would look at? Does Being Human, is it open towards outlet mall? Is India ready towards outlet mall concept and, something that is picking up?
So outlet mall is a reality. One likes it or not, doesn't. It's not something that's going to stop. We as a market, the way we, last 10 years have told us that our consumers love the percent off, right? Uh, Whether they get it online or offline, the fact that there was a chain called Brand Factory, now Fashion Factory, continues to do well and continues to soar in revenues and expand is all validation of the fact that outlets are here to stay. The question around that is how many. You know, what proportion of your retail network can be outlet? So so far we have followed a measure of close to about one outlet to every 8 to 10 stores, 8 to 10 fresh stores, and one outlet related to that. So long as it stays in that kind of a range, it's not going to come in the way of your fresh, full priced experience stores. The day we let that beast go bigger, I mean, we are not going to be any different from what happened in the United States, right? I mean, outlet is the primary business. There are experience stores for the sake of some zones, some revenue, some marketing, and that's what it is. So I think it's a good thing, but it's a beast that's got to be controlled. It's got to be controlled. Like we spoke about e-commerce earlier. Uh, you've got to keep that in check. You cannot let and nothing against digital first brands, but the reality is that e-commerce, unfortunately, the bedrock of that entire ecosystem in India is not laid on convenience, it is laid on discounts. Now that's something, you know, when it started for all brands like us, it was a party that somebody else was paying for. Today, that cost of that party is moving back to you. So, there is always someone who's going to burn money in that business. And any business where you're sitting and burning money is not going to sustain. Either the business will not sustain or you won't. Somebody else will come and burn money for next 10 years and then wipe out. So I think outlet is great so long as we know that how many outlets for every fresh store.
Perfect. Thanks, Vivek. Deepika, any views on that?
The category we deal in, it cannot go in an outlet. No.
We would love to see an outlet for
We
Caratlane.
can't have diamonds in our
60% off on gold jewelry.
Why not?
But we do keep, running offers from time to time. We just have
Not on
Akshay
making
Tritiya.
charges, huh?
We
Offers
just have
on making
Akshay
charges
Tritiya
are too-
around on Fridays. So
Yeah.
yes, go and experience at the store.
Thanks, Deepika. No, perfect, everyone. Thank you for your time and thank you for
Thank
being
you.
part of this session. Really, some insightful, information to all of us. I hope you all enjoyed and have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much.